Dear beloved viewers, in the final days of pregnancy, CEO Toan set aside all his work to take his wife, Ly Tu Diem, to their last prenatal checkup. In the ultrasound room, they were deeply moved seeing their baby boy clearly and feeling his strong little kicks. On the way home, amidst worries and excitement, the couple exchanged heartfelt promises, giving each other strength as they prepared for the sacred moment, the birth of their child. If you love emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The morning light filtered softly through the sheer curtains, casting golden hues across the spacious bedroom. Outside, birds chirped their melodies, and a light breeze rustled the garden leaves. Inside, everything felt calm and slow, as if time itself was pausing to breathe with them. Ly Tu Diem stirred beneath the warm covers, her hand instinctively resting on the swell of her belly. At 39 weeks pregnant, every motion now came with effort. Her back ached, and her legs were slightly swollen, but there was a softness in her expression, a kind of quiet resilience. Her baby boy, the little life she and her husband had been waiting for, was almost here. Beside her, CEO Toan was already awake. The powerful, composed man known to many as a titan in the business world was now dressed in casual home clothes, sleeves rolled up, quietly folding a warm blanket on the chair. He had taken the entire week off to stay home with Diem, canceling meetings, delegating responsibilities, something his staff rarely saw him do. But for him, there was nothing more important now. Toan walked over and gently sat on the edge of the bed. With a tender smile, he brushed a few strands of hair from Diem's face and leaned in to kiss her forehead. "Good morning, love," he whispered. "How did you sleep?" Diem opened her eyes slowly. "A little sore," she murmured. "The baby kept moving a lot. I think he's getting impatient." Toan chuckled, his voice warm and low. "He's probably as eager to meet you as I was the first time I saw you." Diem laughed lightly, though it ended in a small wince as she shifted. Toan immediately placed a supportive hand on her back. "You're uncomfortable again?" She nodded. "It's my lower back today, and a bit of pressure here," she added, placing her hand just above her pelvis. He studied her with quiet concern, then took both her hands into his. "Let's go get you checked out today," he said gently. "One final full scan before the big day. I want to make sure you and our little guy are completely okay." Diem looked at him, her heart fluttering, not from nerves, but from the depth of his care. This man, once always buried in deadlines and negotiations, was now the most attentive, present version of himself. She saw the same fierce determination in him now, but it was turned toward her well-being, not profit margins. "I'm fine, really," she whispered. "I know," he replied, "but I'll feel better hearing it from the doctor." She gave him a soft nod. "All right. Let's do it." As she sat up slowly, Toan was already at her side, helping her into her slippers. He brought over a warm scarf, draped it around her shoulders, and handed her a thermos of ginger tea he had brewed himself. "You're too good to me," she teased, her eyes sparkling. He leaned down and kissed her belly. "I'm just practicing being a good dad," he smiled. Their hands intertwined as they walked out of the bedroom together. Outside, the world seemed still, as if it understood the quiet significance of this day. It wasn't just another checkup, it was one final moment to breathe, to hold hands, to walk together as husband and wife, before their world would change forever. The hospital hallway was quiet, bathed in a soft, sterile white light. Toan walked beside Diem, one hand gently supporting her back, the other firmly holding hers. She walked slower than usual, careful with every step, her swollen belly leading the way. The receptionist greeted them warmly, they were familiar faces now. This wasn't their first visit, but it would likely be the last before the arrival of their baby boy. As they waited in the lounge, Diem shifted uncomfortably in the cushioned chair. The baby was more active than usual, stretching and kicking. Toan noticed her brows furrowing ever so slightly and squeezed her hand. "He's just saying good morning to us," he whispered, offering a small smile. Diem smiled faintly. "He's getting stronger," she said, rubbing her belly. "You both are," Toan replied, brushing his thumb over the back of her hand. "I can't believe it's almost time." The nurse soon called their names, and they followed her into the familiar ultrasound room. The lights were dimmed, the machine humming softly, and the scent of hand sanitizer lingered faintly in the air. Diem lay down carefully on the examination bed, and Toan pulled a chair close to her side, never letting go of her hand. The doctor, a calm woman with gentle eyes, smiled warmly. "Let's see how our little star is doing today." Diem lifted her blouse, and the cool gel was applied to her belly. The probe moved across her skin, and within seconds, the screen lit up with the blurred but beautiful image of their baby. "There he is," the doctor said softly. Toan leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the screen. He could see the curve of his son's head, the tiny spine, a tiny hand tucked close to his chest, and then, a strong kick. Diem gasped lightly. "Did you see that?" Toan's heart raced. "I felt it too," he whispered. "He's definitely ready to meet us." The doctor smiled. "His heartbeat is strong. Position is perfect. Everything looks healthy. You could go into labor any time now, Mrs. Diem." That sentence sent a ripple of emotion through the room. Diem's lips parted slightly, and she turned to Toan. His expression was unreadable for a second, but only because it held too many emotions at once: awe, fear, love, and wonder. Toan leaned closer, brushing a kiss against Diem's forehead. "You're amazing," he said quietly. "We're almost there." Diem blinked away the tears forming at the corners of her eyes. "I'm still scared," she admitted in a whisper. "That's okay," he replied, voice low but firm. "So am I. But I'll be right beside you." every moment. The doctor printed a few ultrasound photos and handed them over. Diem held them like they were pieces of treasure, images of a little life they had only imagined for so long. Toan tucked the photos into his coat pocket like sacred keepsakes. He knew that as soon as he got home, he placed them in the leather-bound album he had prepared months ago, page after page of memories waiting to be filled. As they left the exam room, the world outside seemed louder, faster, but the two of them moved slowly, wrapped in the quiet gravity of what was coming. A new heartbeat was about to enter their lives. And for Toan, a man who had built empires and closed billion-dollar deals, nothing had ever felt more real or more important than this. The sun had begun to set as Toan and Diem stepped out of the hospital. The sky was painted with soft strokes of orange and rose gold, casting a warm glow across the parking lot. The wind was cool but gentle, and for a moment, everything felt still, like the world itself was taking a breath in anticipation of what was coming. Toan opened the car door for Diem and helped her in gently, adjusting her seatbelt to rest comfortably above her belly. He closed the door with quiet care and slipped into the driver's seat beside her. The engine hummed softly as he started the car, but neither of them spoke. The silence was not empty, it was thoughtful, full of emotion that had no need for words. Halfway into the drive, Diem placed a hand on her belly. Her little one was moving again, as if he sensed the calm that surrounded his parents. "He's restless," she said with a soft smile. "Or maybe excited." Toan glanced at her, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Maybe both," he said. "He can probably hear everything now, our voices, the way we breathe, even the way I worry." Diem laughed gently, then leaned her head against the window. "Do you ever wonder what kind of father you'll be?" she asked. Toan paused, the question landing deeper than she realized. "All the time," he admitted. "I've made business plans, led thousands of people, even built companies from scratch. But this is different. This is building a life. Shaping a soul." She turned to him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. He wasn't just a powerful CEO here, he was a husband, a soon-to-be father, a man facing the most meaningful transition of his life. "I think he'll be the kind of dad he brags about," she said warmly. "The kind who shows up. Who listens. Who teaches him to be kind, but strong." Toan reached over and took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "And I think he'll be the kind of mother who makes everything feel safe even when the world isn't." They drove on for a moment in silence, the city lights starting to twinkle as dusk deepened. Then Diem whispered, "I'm scared of the pain. Of not being strong enough." Toan pulled over onto a quiet roadside, put the car in park, and turned fully to her. "You don't have to be strong alone," he said. "That's why we're in this together. I'll be right there when it happens, holding your hand, breathing with you, crying if I have to. You're not doing this alone, Diem." Tears filled her eyes. She didn't try to stop them. "I know," she whispered. "That's what gives me the courage." Toan kissed the back of her hand, his voice low. "In a few days, we'll be holding him." And in that moment, all the pain, all the waiting, it'll make sense. They sat there for a while, just watching the evening sky. In that simple car, parked under the fading light, they weren't just husband and wife anymore. They were parents in waiting, on the cusp of something beautiful. Together, they drove the rest of the way home, with a quiet promise in their hearts and a little heartbeat waiting to meet the world.